well-being of our youth, families, and community. This show will guide you, educate you, and inspire you to be part of the solution and to reach out and help make a difference in our communities. What began as a local movement in the city of Midlothian grew to include programs throughout Ellis County with only a few years and eventually expanded into our neighboring Johnson County, Texas. And so here we are today. I'm going to have my co host introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Vasquez.
And we have two very special guests in with us this evening. We've got Amber Hill and Angela Christine from Mind Above Matter that's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about emotional support listening. But I wanted to share a couple of announcements before we get into that real quick. So this weekend in Johnson County is when we're doing our prom pop-up event. It's going to be at the First Baptist Church here in Burleson. And Ashley, you may have to help me on the time. So
it will
Friday,
be 3:30 to 8:30 on Friday and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday.
Awesome. So the kids get to come in if they're looking to go to prom and they need some prom attire. This is an opportunity for them to come in. You know, with our grants, we're required to do a little education piece. And so we've got some really good activities that the kids get to participate in, and then they get to go shopping for free prom attire. And a lot of these, we couldn't have done this without Recovery Resource Council. They've been a big supporter. They used to do the Buzz Free Prom in North Texas. And so we've kind of taken over the program, and they're getting us off on this. And a big sponsor, whatchamacallit, has donated probably close to 450 dresses this year for us, brand new dresses. So this is really awesome.
Price tag still on them.
Yes, price tag still on them. We're always in need of, we take donations of gently used dresses that are clean, and we need suits for our young men. We've not had as much luck on getting donations on those, but we do have some jackets, pants. So if they can't find something for prom, maybe something that they could maybe use for job interviews or something like that even. So there's things that they can go look through. And we've got raffles that are going to go in there. You're going to get some really great prizes. And so there's a lot of fun stuff going on. So if you have a youth that is going to prom, it isn't just Johnson County area, but this is where this event is being held. But if you have somebody here in the North Texas area that would like to drive over here to Burleson on Friday or Saturday, they can only come one day to actually participate and get an outfit. But we'd love for them to come back and bring a friend and have a good time. So there's a lot of really fun stuff.
And this is this Friday and Saturday. I don't know.
It is this Friday.
That. Yeah, the 24th and 25th
absolutely.
Of March. Yes.
So we did this event at the end of February in Ellis County, and I believe we had 197 youth that came through, and the biggest part of those actually got items. We also have jewelry and makeup, and we've got some really cool. Yeah, there's some shoes. It was really a great event.
For this event, we'll have socks for the gentlemen.
Yeah, so
nice.
Yeah, so if they don't find something, at the very least, they get to choose a really cool sock.
Yeah,
but we have ties and shirts, and there's different deals. It's a little harder on guys, because sometimes their pant size is different than their jacket size, and things like that. So, but there is stuff there for them to go through. Whether it's actually something that they would want for prom, that may be the question. So again, we are looking for some really nice suits. If anybody would like to donate towards our project, this is going to be an ongoing.
Like Western outfits too. A lot of men or young men are wearing like jeans and boots and like a long sleeve button up. So those two are appreciated.
Definitely. So anything like that, if you have, I know that on a lot of things, for the young ladies, the plus size dresses is something that we're in need of as well. Yeah. I will say we have a better selection this year than we've had in previous years. We had some of those dresses donated. So we're really excited about that's coming up this weekend. Was there anything else that you can think of that we need to touch on?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you introduce our guests by reading their bios.
Alrighty. So we have Amber Hill and Angela Christine here with us today. And just to tell y'all a little bit about them, Amber Hill is a wife of 17 years, a mom of 6 kiddos. She was a foster mom and has adopted 4 kids from foster care, a RN of 9 years, and a bikini competitor.
Oh, wow.
Yes, fun stuff.
Amber enjoys spending time with her family, going to the lake, and working out. Amber is the community outreach specialist with Mind Above Matter. Amber wants to remove the stigma around mental health and let everyone know help is out there. Your mental health matters.
That's
Love that.
awesome. I do too.
And we have Angela. Angela is a graduate of Baylor University and is currently finishing her master's degree in counseling.
Finished.
Oh,
Finished.
Yes, as
Yay!
of 2 weeks
Awesome.
ago. It's
Congratulations.
done.
Congrats.
And you forgot to say Sikkim.
Yes,
So
so
exciting. Wow, that's awesome. She began working in the mental health field in 2017 after 16 years working in ministry. She recently joined the Mind of a Matter family because she believes wholeheartedly in the mission to make mental health treatment accessible. Her ultimate goal is to create a culture of mental health that is not punitive or stigmatizing. Mental health care can be fun. Self-care should be something we are proud of. Angela is also a proud mama to 3 boys and a certified personal trainer. So we got some fit women in
Yeah.
here.
Hey,
It's a
she also
requirement
got
for the business.
the Dancing of the Stars for Ellis
Yes,
County. She
yes,
won that too.
fun.
So
Yes.
fun.
me and my 3 boys were able to dance and raise money for Texas Baptist Home for Children. And it was just a great experience. And we did bring home that mirror ball. It
Where
is sitting.
is it?
Well, usually I carry it around in my purse
I know, I was
everywhere I
gonna
go.
say she did. She had it, in her purse. At the
I'm
United
surprised
City.
it's not at the table right now, but it has a
Show
very
everyone.
special place in the middle of our home that we can look at it and just be proud of what we raised. Overall, all of the dancers, we raised $106 or $109,000
That's amazing.
for the kids, and that all goes to the kids. And it was such an amazing experience, and the boys loved it. They got out of their comfort zone.
Y'all did really good. I watched your video.
Oh,
that you
good.
guys did. It
Yeah.
was really
I
good.
kind of blew it up on
What a
Facebook
fun
a little bit.
fact.
We did not expect to win. I mean, we really didn't. We got in it just for fun, but it was such a great time.
That was really.
I
Cool.
was
Yeah.
there and there was people crying. Like,
Oh.
I was
Yeah.
crying. Yeah, it was emotional. Yeah, it was good stuff.
We pulled on the heartstrings just a little bit.
Just a little
Just
bit.
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Hey, whatever
Edge.
works.
I know, right? That's just smart.
That is cool.
That is so cool. And she loves being involved in her community as the Waxahachie Rotary Secretary, Green Coat Ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce in Waxahachie, and mental health champion for the Unite Ellis County.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, speaking of the United, so that's one of the committees that Angela and I actually work on together, and it's been really important for all of us. And I'm really excited the progress that's being made.
Yes,
and,
so
and things
exciting.
like that. And so I know at this last meeting, this topic actually came up at the
Mhm.
meeting that they said that y'all were going to be doing
Mhm.
some presentations and stuff like. So y'all did
Yeah.
one this morning.
We did. We had our pilot training this morning, and basically what we're calling it is kind of an emotional. Pull my notes up. The emotional support training.
Okay.
And the name of this one, we're going to do it like a series of them. But this was, how to become a skilled helper, and it's all focused on listening, and that love listens.
Mhm.
And when Anna and I were talking, Anna Hammonds is kind of the overall champion for Unite Ellis, and when we were talking about how would we train our community, what would we want them to know, because ultimately we are sending the seekers, what we're calling the seekers, those who need help. We're sending the seekers to our county champions, and they're spread all over Ellis County and all of the cities. And we're wanting to train those champions to be skilled helpers to these seekers.
Right.
And so, these are just your everyday non-mental health professional citizens, right? They don't really know much about mental health. They just want to be a part of helping.
Right.
And we looked at different trainings, and it's 4 hours or 8 hours or over the course of 3 days. And it costs money. And we thought, what can we do within ourselves? What kind of tools can we put in their toolbox just to be able to champion our seekers? And we really wanted to start out this training with the idea of listening, because listening truly is one of the most powerful gifts you can give to another human being.
Right.
Is the gift. When you truly feel heard and understood, it's the same as being loved.
Yeah.
When you give somebody that gift, when you give them the gift of being unhurried and complete attention to them. And I'll say, I'm actually a terrible listener. And I hate to say that because I am almost a counselor. But naturally I'm not a good listener. And so my very first class that I took for my master's degree was Basics in Counseling. And it was the most formative classes that I took. And the book was The Skilled Helper. And that's kind of where I based my training off of today, is what are the basics that anyone can learn about listening? Because a counselor listens 80% of the time and they talk 20.
Okay.
So that is the absolute formula for being a good listener, is just not talking. So how do you give someone, what is the posture that you come to that conversation to be able to create a safe place for them to expose themselves, to
Okay.
expose their stories, to tell their hurts? And but it's a teachable skill. It's not one that we're all born with. Some people come to the table very natural listeners. My son is 16 years old and he is an incredible listener. He always has been.
That's
He's-
amazing. Yeah.
He's been a natural counselor since he was 3 years old.
Aw.
I get upset with him because, he's sometimes more adult than I am. And I'm like, stop that. You're making me look bad. But he doesn't, it has to be a little bit more a lot more focused for me. To be able to truly get into the posture of listening. And I think it's because I'm a very hurried person.
See, I think I'm a lot like you on that. And I
Mhm.
have difficulty with active listening sometimes,
Right.
or at least my husband tells me that.
That doesn't count.
Well, I will say, after I went to the training today, and when I left, I got in the car and I called my husband. I was like, I have to have a talk with our kids. And he's like, why? And I was like, I am a horrible listener. And it was like silence. He's like, light bulb moment. Maybe you should have gone to this a long time ago. And so I called our oldest, who is 18, and she goes to Tarleton State. And I called her and I'm like, are you busy? And she's like, I can't talk right now. And I'm like, call me when you have free time, because mom's got to own some stuff.
Yeah.
So that conversation's going to happen tonight, but it wouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize how horrible of a listener I was
Mm.
See,
until
I
today.
know. See, I would be. I'll admit, I don't know that I'm a great listener. I'm a talker,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard for me to shut my mouth.
Yeah.
Well,
and
and you're
stuff.
multitasking. I'm a mom of
Yes.
6, so I've got my phone is
Yep.
on constantly in my hand. I need to put it down. I'm cooking dinner, or they're seeing the back of my head as we're driving from one sports
Yes.
to the next. And
Yes.
it was like, I just have to stop
Yeah.
and just listen. So
Or I've caught myself when I am listening to someone, I'm like half listening and then I'm half thinking of what I'm going to say
Yes.
back in response.
Yeah.
So I'm not fully listening to them.
Right,
Yeah, I
right.
catch myself doing that a lot.
Yeah. And that's important. The awareness is that's the most important part of it, is when you become aware of, first of all, how powerful it is to be heard, but then learn these very basic skills. And it's like a light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I know that this is so powerful? And we began our training today with 3 different games, and I'll kind of walk you through what we did, because it
Okay.
was an amazing experience to watch. I wanted them to learn 3 things, but not learn them, but to experience them. And I wanted to start them off with the feeling of listening and talking, and how it felt to be the seeker, how it felt to be the helper.
Okay.
So our first game we called speed helping.
Okay.
Okay. So if you've ever heard of speed dating or speed friending, or there's like speed networking, you go to one person and you sit there for 1 minute and you get to find out as much as you can about them. And then you move to the next person, or then you trade places and then they learn about you. Then you
Okay.
move to the next person and it's one person. So the energy's high, right? My introverts are
Yeah.
freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. They're like stressed out to their max. You
I
can
thought it
see-
was the best thing ever.
I did too. I was
I was like,
extrovert.
yes, people, let's go.
Let's bring in more, right?
Yeah.
Let's do this for an hour. Yeah. So my introverts are like sweating bullets. So we're going around. It's fast paced. It's intense. And I'm listening to the conversation, and the conversation is it's very surface level, right? You're getting to know someone, but it's almost like the facts of them. What's your name? What's your profession? They're talking about their family, what they do, their education. It's the very basics of them. So we did that. And then I cut it down to 30 seconds and then 15 seconds. And you should have seen the introverts. It was amazing. So it made me giggle a little bit. But so the second game that we did was a little bit longer. So I gave them a list. We called that the objective helping. Okay.
Okay.
So there's the objective helping, where they had 3 minutes to go through an entire questionnaire of questions. It started very basic. Your name, your age, your profession, your family, your hobbies, your interests, and then why were they there today? And then it got deeper from that. What's one thing you've done hard in your life? What's one thing you want to do in the future? Why hasn't that worked out for you? What's your next plan? So it got really, a little bit deeper as they went down, but still they were hurried. They were panicked. They only had 3 minutes. There was a lot of information. They were taking notes like crazy. And then they had to introduce the person. So
Okay.
they were stressed out about that. So their whole posture, I mean, they're just engaged. They're wiry, us extroverts are excited.
We are super excited.
My introverts are leaving at this point. So they got to introduce one person. Then the other person, I shocked them on this one because I said, okay, now everybody's wired. The energy's crazy high in the room. Everybody's excited. And I said, okay, everybody close your eyes. Take a deep breath. I said, the person who didn't talk, this is your next assignment. Open your eyes. You're going to be helping with empathy. They were able to ask one person one question. And I wanted to see what would happen. I said, there is no time limit. The posture immediately relaxed. First of all, my
Wow.
introverts are like thanking me. But the posture of, so the question was, walk me through one part of your story that was hard. And you see the seekers automatically looking up to the sky. And they're leaning back in their chairs. And I watch the helpers, and their eye contact is right there. Their volume dropped. Their tone changed. The helpers leaned in. They engaged fully in listening. They said, walk me through one part of your story that was hard. And for the next 5 minutes, they didn't say a thing. There were tears.
Yeah.
There was so much emotion. I wanted them to experience what it felt like to truly be heard. And, we talked about the experience afterwards and how it felt. How did the silence feel? And one thing that we don't really consider is how healing silence can be in
I agree.
itself. I have a really cool quote, if I can find it way down here in my notes, about how powerful silence really is. It says, when things go quiet, you might not think much is going on, but silence is rarely empty. It's far from it. The ease that stillness creates can be unfamiliar and yet re-energizing, helping people get in touch with a deeper wisdom and find a new significant insight. And these seekers may harvest a new thought. They may discover a solution for an ongoing problem, but it's hidden in plain sight that they only find in the quiet. And you see it with their eyes because the eye contact of the helpers right here. They're right there. They're engaged. But the eyes of the seeker, they're looking up. They're thinking about their story. And as they begin to talk and you see the emotion pouring out, you see the empathy on the helper's face. And it took one thing. It took an unhurried posture. I just think, how would our kids be different if parents truly knew how to listen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just shut up. I mean, honestly, as parents, if we just did and just listened,
Agree.
Yeah. Because I'm always one to jump in. I'm a fixer. I want to fix
Mhm.
everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right there with you.
And I give advice when my kids don't want advice. They just want me to shut up and listen. And I don't do that. I'm horrible at that. Caden, your apologies coming. tonight.
I'm sure
Um,
she's listening.
But it's just like I learned a lot about myself today. And I have trauma in my home. I've adopted 4 kids from foster
Mhm.
care. We
Yeah.
lived this life for 9 years. So
Wow.
I'm like, how many other lives could have changed if I just would have been quiet and just
Mm.
listened? So
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was very powerful. I learned
It's a true
lot.
gift, and
Yes.
it's one. It's a skill that we don't think of as being teachable. Because when I first started my master's program, I thought I would just fix everybody. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going into it to fix people because people are broken, and I can have all the answers to fix them. After I get done with my master's, I'll know it all. What I didn't realize was the opposite was true. I didn't need to know it all. I need to know the right questions to get the people, the seekers, to take themselves to that wisdom and have the understanding of how powerful it can be to offer them that. Because then it's not coming from me. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm
Right.
putting the responsibility on them. I must admit, I tend to therapize my family sometimes. You're like, Mom, stop therapizing me. My mother will not even hear it. She's like, stop doing your counselor thing. I don't like it. My dad.
We were talking about that today, weren't we?
My dad's like, I don't have feelings. They're just completely. But there was this one very, very powerful moment. My oldest son, who is the listener, who is a lot of times more adult than I am, he pulled me out of my bedroom and he said, Mom, can I talk to you for a minute? And first of all, you're like, oh, what happened? What is he going to tell me? He's not a troublemaker at all, but it's unusual for him to have that request. So of course. So we go in the living room and sit on the couch and just plop down like, hey, what's up, bro?
Yeah.
And he says very, very seriously, he says, can you not be my mom right now? Can you be my counselor?
Oh, wow.
And I knew what he meant by that because Mom's going to try to fix it, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be fixed. He wanted to be heard. Automatically, my posture changes. I sit up, I square him, sit squarely with him. I lean in, I engage. I do not lose eye contact. And I zip my mouth and let him speak. And he said that was one of the most powerful experiences that we've had together
Wow.
in our
Wow.
lives.
Awesome.
So even though he told me not to therapize him, he asked for that
He
one
did.
time.
He did.
But I was very
That's
proud of him
sweet.
for recognizing that that's what he needed in the moment.
Yeah.
And if we can recognize that, because I have a lot of friends, but I have friends who come to me and they say, I got a problem, and I say, okay, hold on. Do you want me to be
Mhm.
Angela, the advice giver? Do you want me to be Angela, the listener? Just to be here and sit with you and in your mess. I'm not fixing you. I'm here with you. You make your own decisions. And they say, I just want you to be here.
Mhm.
I have
Wow.
never had a friend come to me and say, I have a problem. Can you fix it?
Yeah.
They don't want to be fixed. They want
wanna
to be
be
heard.
heard. Yeah. I think for the person, because in certain situations that I've had, because we've had a little trauma in our family as well,
Mm.
I think sometimes being able to talk about it is a kind
Mhm.
of a healing
Yeah.
Yes.
deal.
Yes.
And so I can see that. But I know that I need to work on that.
We
But-
all do.
But, that is really empowering when, so parents that are listening,
Mhm.
We need to listen to our kids. I mean, they need to be heard. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of us in our day to day, we get rushed
Mhm.
and, it's just like it comes in one ear and out the other sometimes, and we don't
Yeah.
really listen.
Right. Yeah.
And just how much are we missing?
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
Like with depression and all of how much signs were there and we as parents missed it.
Yeah.
Because we're just running our mouth
Yeah,
and not
but
listening.
absolutely. Well, we had a guest a couple of weeks ago. Let's see, Dr. Leah was on
Yeah.
here with us,
Yes.
and she's doing a study. I think it was UT. Is that where it was
I
at?
don't remember the
I'm
school.
horrible about remembering that. But anyhow, she said one of the things in the conversations that she's had with youth, that is the biggest thing that they've actually said. The kids said that they would, they would like to be
Able to talk to their
able to
parents.
talk to their
Wow.
parents.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think I'm not a parent yet, but I've heard my own parents or other parents say that they don't know how or they think that their kids don't want to talk to them. They think
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
maybe they're too old or they're
Mhm.
not cool, but in reality, and that's what I was saying in that. I was growing up, I would have loved to tell my parents about everything in my life. I wanted
Mhm.
to share and talk and
And not be judged.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's
We're good for
We're-
just a little bit
okay.
more. Then we'll go to commercial break.
I won't get into it a whole lot, but there's the posture of listening. We've talked about that a little bit, but there's communication shoulds and there's communication shouldn'ts.
Okay.
And the thing is, if you communicate in the wrong way with judgment, and if that's what you come to it with judgment, and you're passing judgment, first of all, you're going to get a defense. They're going to put up a wall immediately because they're going to see it in you.
Right.
And you can do more harm than good. And that's scary, especially with our kids, because we've lived long enough. We live more than them. They need the answers, but we got to put that aside. We got to just hear them.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go to commercial break. And so we ask you that you come back and join us for the second half as we talk about, our conversation again about being a emotional support listener.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Out of deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
You're listening to Joco Community Radio.
Welcome back to the second half of the Reach Across Johnson County segment on Joco Community Radio. Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch the station and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at JocoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more is brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844.tex.hail. That's 844-839-4245. And be sure to dress your arms and more with Tiffy.com. Well, thank y'all for coming back and being with us this evening. I am very excited about our conversations that we're having so far. So where should we go next?
Well, we talked a little bit about the unhurried posture.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna jump into kind of what are the skills that you can learn as a good communicator And what does it look like as, what does bad communication look like?
Okay.
And the thing is, we've all experienced this. We just, we don't know the name for it, right? So we're going to kind of put some names to those bad listening skills. And you're not allowed to identify anybody aloud in your family that does these, because immediately when I start talking about someone, you're going to be like, oh, that is exactly what she did. I'm going to text her. I'm going to tell her what she's doing wrong.
At the class, she was listening, and I was like, but what if that's me?
What if that's me? Yeah.
Like, that's me.
We can all identify with it. So becoming a skilled helper, it begins with the relationship.
Okay.
If you don't create a rapport and a safe space for your seeker, they're not going to be able to open up to you. And so how do you create that safe space? It's at our primal core as human beings to be understood and to be in relationship with others. And we bring all kinds of different things to conversations. The seeker, the helper, we bring attempts to manage the problem. We bring our past, general expectations of life, skills, hopes, fears, degrees of openness to change, willingness to work, reluctance, values, morals. And if you try to take what you bring to the conversation and copy it and paste it onto another person, you've lost immediately. You have to open yourselves up. It doesn't mean you have to agree or condone bad behavior. And I think as parents, I think that's where we get caught up the worst, because we're trying to protect our kids from themselves.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
We have to let them know that that behavior is not okay. And so we skip the listening part and we tell them not to do it.
Right.
But if we were just to sit with them in their brokenness, not offer any advice, I think they could come up with it on their own. So it starts with the relationship. And there's 5 values that we talked about in a helping relationship. One is respect.
Okay.
And respect goes both ways. It cannot be demanded. It has to be earned. So, when we look at our children and we say, you have to respect me, that's not fair. You have to posture yourself in a way that you've earned that respect. So respect is a foundational value. Be genuine. Let it be clear that you're there for the seeker. And always assume the seeker's goodwill. Had a really great question this morning. A grandmother asked me, she said, but what if you know they're lying to you? Everything they're saying is a lie and you know it. And you could tell she was agitated. She had just lived through this, right? She's lying to me. I said, you have to assume everything that's coming out of her mouth, you have to give her the benefit of the doubt. Now, in the back of your mind, you're thinking that doesn't make sense. But that is not for that moment. That moment is to fully listen. She needs to know that you believe her before I say this all the time. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. You have to create that safe space to share before they're going to open up. So you get in back of your mind, no, that doesn't make sense. But that's for later. That's for questioning. That's for probing. You have to get them to give that back to you. You can't force that honesty. You have to wait for it. You have to earn it. Because she's doing that for some reason. She's doing that because she doesn't want to disappoint you. She doesn't want to get in trouble. So you have to be a safe space for her to feel like she's not being judged and punished.
And that could just be like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Like one of our adopted kiddos lies about everything
Mhm.
under the sun. I mean, the stupidest things. Did you clean your room? Yes, it's clean. You go in there. That room hadn't been touched.
Yeah.
Did you do the dishes? Yep. There's a sink full of dishes. But that's
Mhm.
how she survived her first 7 years of life. So,
Oh.
like there could
a
be a
reason.
reason. There is a reason for it.
Mhm.
So that was
That's
another
interesting.
aha moment for
Yeah.
me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could see that grandma, her wheels were turning like,
Yeah.
okay.
She talked a
Yes,
lot about
she
that
did.
afterwards.
Yeah, she
that was
did.
really important for her to understand, could see the light bulbs going off in her mind. And later she talked about how she really regretted that she said, I just let into her. I didn't let her talk. And she completely withdrew. Her defenses were up. So respect, empathy as the primary value. We'll talk a little bit about empathy later if we have time, but
Okay.
appreciation for diversity. Okay. Not everyone that you talk to is going to have your same values.
Okay.
They're not going to have your same story. What we're listening for is their perspective. Tell me how that felt for you. I want to understand your story. And you're asking questions, you're probing, not because you're trying to gather information just because you're inquisitive, but you're trying to get from point A to point B to point C. And point A is, what's your current picture? Point B is, what do you want that picture to look like? Point C is, what's the action plan to get that? But if you don't start with that full listening to let them have that space, they're not going to even be able to get to point B, because chances are they haven't even identified it themselves. They haven't spoken that out loud yet to what they really know that they want. I just know there's a problem, and that's all they're focused on. We talk about the miracle question in counseling. See if I could scroll up to it. Have you ever heard of the miracle question?
I haven't heard of that. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it in my notes here. I have way too much material. And my computer's going to die in about 2 minutes. So I'm going to lose it all. But basically the miracle question is, let's say you go to sleep tonight and you wake up and everything has changed. And a miracle happened and your problem has been solved and you didn't know it because you were asleep. What does your world look like now? Walk me through the clues that tell you that things have changed. So you get them to think of not just the problem, but what would a better life look like? What would thriving look like? And maybe for the first time, they're starting to paint that picture within their minds. So, going back to that, going back to my notes here. I am cheating with my notes. Respect, empathy, appreciation, empowerment, and always having that action as an outcome focused value. So you're trying to get somewhere. You're not just talking to talk, but you're trying to take it somewhere. You're trying to give them the right questions and probes to get them to tell you their story. Because listening is just about putting the puzzle together of someone's story, because ultimately that's what they want. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me, but you hear it and you validate me and
That's
you
huge.
reflect listening to me. And all of a sudden I go, yeah, I do feel overwhelmed. I mean, just to tell someone a story of how you feel on a daily basis. You have so much going on, and your brain is mush, and you're just trying to get through the day. And somebody says, "Gosh, it seems like you just must be exhausted." That little piece of validation is so incredibly powerful for human beings.
Makes you feel really seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So becoming a good listener, becoming a skilled helper. We use the term, we use the word solar in counseling, SOLER. And that basically tells you how to posture yourself when you're listening. Because if you have the wrong posture, or if you're fidgeting, or if you're looking away, or if you're distracted, you're not going to really fully engage in that conversation. The S in solar is to face the seeker squarely.
Okay.
So you're facing them. Your shoulders match their shoulders. Your legs aren't crossed. The O is you're adopting an open posture. So if my arms are crossed, I'm blocking something.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not as open as maybe, because I'm a little scared of what you're going to say. I'm not confident. This posture says, I'm ready to hear you. The L is to lean in. And when you have those moments, you see someone get emotional, you see tears come to their eyes, just the very, very slight movement forward. You're not touching them. You're not invading their space. It's just a very gentle, maybe it's just putting your elbows on your hands and just deepening that rapport, that connection to them can be so powerful in that moment. The E is to maintain that eye contact. So important. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. We know that eye contact is so important, but the E is eye contact. And then just the R is just be relaxed, be neutral. You're not fidgeting. You're not distracted. You're not on your phone. I'm terrible about that.
You're
'Cause
not
I'm-
cooking dinner.
You're not cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Driving, I think is a really great place to be able to listen, but you're still distracted. You can't give them that eye contact.
Well, and some teenagers don't want the eye contact, and some people don't.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like, I feel like
Mhm.
some of our good conversations is when they are behind me and they're not seeing my face, because I
Mhm.
don't hide my emotions well in my face. I told her today, she was like, you just have to have your face relaxed. I need lots of Botox because I'm gonna freeze this face because it's all over when I'm emotional. So I guess that was another eye opener for me, is just learning, like, Mom, control your face. Control your face.
Mhm. And not to be shocked, if we talk about going to the doctor's office, and if you were going to go in the doctor's office and they just, oh my gosh, what is this? You kind of panic a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into your counselor or a person and then be so overwhelmed by your problems that you're having to calm them down, right? We can in our mind be screaming like, oh my gosh, this is a lot to handle, but we have to present that relaxed, open, there is nothing you're going to say to me that I haven't heard type of posture. That say anything to me, I can handle it. I've got the big shoulders. And I said this in the training this morning. I'm a huge proponent that a child should never have to carry an adult's emotions.
Yeah.
Ever. Period. End of story. It's my soapbox. The same in a helper-seeker relationship. Always with children and adults. Always. But in a helper-seeker, you have to, they call it the wise mind. You have to put yourself in your wise mind. They talk about the rational brain and the emotional brain. And I have to apologize to my kids all the time. I'm like, Mama's in her lizard brain. I'm going to get in my frontal lobe, but you got to give me some time to get there. We always have to be okay in ourselves enough to be able to help.
Right.
So we have to be okay. So we have to get to ourselves to a place that we're not thinking in our emotional brain, because chances are the person you're going to talk to, they're in their lizard brain right now. Okay. They're not able to think rationally. It is scientifically impossible for them to make a rational decision while they are in their lizard brain. They have to wait, let those emotions calm down. That's why we take timeouts to get into their frontal lobe. That is where the rational thinking is going to happen. So very important for the seeker to be able to recognize when they're not okay in themselves. I feel like I forgot where I was going with that, but we're gonna go back, because I want to talk about what communication should not look like.
Okay.
And this is where you're gonna start thinking of all the names, but we're not gonna talk about it. So communication should not be. Examples of poor listening is non-listening. Okay, you're going through the motions of listening. You're cleaning in the kitchen. You're so distracted. Yes. Okay. All right. Fine. What'd you say? You're just going through the motions. You're partially listening. You're skimming for the important parts. I talk about this like, you're in church. And so you're just trying to get the basic information so you can, have a conversation on the way home. You look like that you did something today, right? Tape recorder listening. You're just repeating words, just kind of giving them back. There's no emotion behind it. Rehearsing. You ever rehearse? I do this a lot. You're thinking about what you're going to say instead of listening.
I could say I'm guilty of that sometimes.
I
Yeah.
think we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to always, recognize that we're not always going to be good listeners. There's going to be times that we're not able to. We're not able to really help the way that we need to help. Distorted listening is like filtered listening. And filtered listening can be very harmful. Filtered listening is based on biases. Okay. You have an agenda. You have an assumption. You have a stereotype. That's going to be harmful because you're placing your values on someone else instead of truly letting them expose themselves to you.
Okay.
You're just trying to cut and paste. You're trying to fix. The evaluative listening, the advice giving, right? Guilty here.
Mhm.
This is what we do with the kids. This is what we do with our friends. It's hard to get out of that mindset of trying to fix it, right? Interrupting, just trying to find ammunition, to fight back, to rebuttal. And so we interrupt, we overtalk, we don't truly sit there with the 80-20. That formula just goes out the window with those bad communication skills. On the other side of that, we talk about the empathetic listening. And I think, that's really the heart of what we do as counselors is that we do show that empathy. And empathetic listening lets the seekers talk about their experiences. It lets them talk about their thoughts, their behavior. They talk about their feelings, their emotions. And so as you're listening with empathy, you're recognizing those points, the strengths, those opportunities, those resources without just throwing it on them. You're putting them in the back of your head, but what you're really trying to do is just grasp the entirety of their story. Because like I said earlier, they may not have ever even told their story before. And so it's such a powerful moment for them to be able to do that. Y'all make up something because I'm looking through my notes.
But y'all want part 2, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Like
But,
it's part of a series.
the-
So there's more.
There is more. And, the single most important part of a conversation is to be heard, to be validated, to be understood. And that is that response with empathy. But there's more to this story than just the listening part.
Can you be too empathetic, do you think?
I think you can be too emotionally connected to it. Yes. Because if you counselors have to remain very neutral, right? It's talking about being in your wise mind. Counselors hear people on their worst days of their lives. And some do this for 8 hours a day for multiple years of their lives. And that's why they burn out. They're so exhausted from carrying that. Can you imagine carrying that for so many years?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that you can be too emotionally connected. If there's a story, we talk about as counselors, when we relate something too much to somebody's story, we have to have the wisdom to be able to pass them to somebody else. Maybe their story is too much like I am. I can't, it's something I cannot help them with right now because I'm not in my wise mind.
Okay.
So absolutely. I think that's a very, very important point. We didn't really get to this in our training, but they were like, well, what about questioning? How do you get from point A of the current story to where you want to be to the action? Like, questioning is on a different level because you're not just questioning to be inquisitive. You're questioning to really move them from one part of their story to the next. And it's a real challenge to understand what kinds of responses to give. How do you move them forward? Many times just emphasizing a word. So, your daughter says, "Oh, I just hate school," or "I hate my sister," or I hate that person. You look at them, you say, "Hate. That's a strong word." And well, I don't really hate him. I'm just mad at him. I'm frustrated. Like they notice that they're using really strong language, and all you have to do is say, hate. Interesting. To move them to the next part of them thinking through that emotion. Sometimes it just takes kind of a reflective listening skill. So you have heard of reflective listening. So I'm telling you something, and I'm just going to basically summarize what you just told me in my own words and ask for clarification. This is a big communication tool we use in couples counseling to get them to really listen to the person and validate what they're saying. So many times we hear a whole story, we go back to summarize, and we miss some things. So, okay, I heard you say that you feel very fearful whenever I yell at you. Is that right? Did I get that right? And all of a sudden you see, yeah, it's exactly what I want you to hear right now. That can be so powerful because you heard what you just said, but coming through somebody else's words. You know that they understood you. You know you said it. You know they heard. And that can really move the conversation to where it needs to go next. So reflective listening, summarizing, just giving probing questions. Okay, that didn't work for you. Have you thought about doing something different? Just kind of always moving that conversation, not just, "Oh, what'd your brother say? How did it, what was he thinking?" You're not engaging them even more emotionally. You're trying to help them along the process of solving their own problems and moving that to the next level. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So questioning, probing, it's probably going to be the next part of our series is really being able to ask those questions more strategically. Because if you're only going to talk 20% of the time, you got to have some good questions, right? You got to have the right questions because you want them to be able to take that to the next level.
That's pretty cool.
I know. So I like that. So instead of, because I feel like especially if they're telling you about a certain circumstance, it would be really easy for you to be like, "They said what?" And then that brings out more of that emotion.
Right.
But instead you're trying to help them process it and start moving forward in that situation and figure out what they need to do next.
Right. Now it is very appropriate to meet them where they are with that emotion and say, "Wow, he sounds like a piece of trash." I mean, just you validating that can be very powerful. But for you to get upset about it really doesn't do any good. You can say, "I wish I could have been there to defend you." I had a counselor tell me that once. Really impactful for me. I told her a really difficult story and I told her what the situation, and she just said, "That should have never happened to you. I wish that I could have been there to stop it."
Wow.
Just picturing that in my mind made me feel relief, understood, like somebody was taking my side. Somebody was defending me from my pain in that moment. And it was years before, but I felt like she was there. And that was part of that healing. It was really powerful.
That's awesome.
So do you guys know good listeners? Do you know, is there somebody in your mind that has just come up that you're just like, wow, they've really figured it out? I didn't realize how good of a listener they were. Cricket.
I hate to admit it, but mine's my husband. Like he's just calm, cool, and collected, and he doesn't react. He'll just listen. So
Yeah.
I thanked him for that too.
Oh,
Thank you,
good
Angela. It's
job.
like marriage counseling,
No kidding.
all the things.
I'll send you my bill.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe the time was
That
gone
is
by
an
so
hour.
fast.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a
This
good
was
one.
really good
It
information.
was.
very good information. Well, thank y'all so much for. Hey, we may have to stick around for a part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you
Yes.
guys for listening.
Absolutely. I think this is the quietest I've been in for a long time.
Yeah, y'all are very quiet today. The last times that we've been, it's been very chatty, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm really having to pull up some more material here. They're really listening
I
to
was
me. They're
trying to
engaged.
practice what you were
Yes,
teaching.
Yeah.
I was trying to listen.
I'm looking squarely at
Yep,
you.
yep.
I'm not fidgeting.
So, well, thank you. Y'all joined us again for the Reach Across Johnson County segment. Thank you.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.